Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's honestly a bit mind-blowing, how a staff engineer's daily workflow has radically transformed over just the past year. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the pace of software development. It's a first-hand look at what it actually means to code right alongside artificial intelligence in 2026.
So here's a question I really want you to think about as we go through this. What happens when AI agents actually get good? I mean, think about it. We've gone from AI being a glorified autocomplete to an autonomous partner in literally just 15 months. It really wasn't that long ago that we were all side-eyeing AI, right? Maybe you'd copy-paste a function into a chat window just to see what happened. But now, the reality of what these agents can do has crossed a critical threshold, and it's completely changing how engineers spend their time.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the 2025 AI Baseline, Smart Autocomplete, and Throwaway Code.
To really appreciate this, we got to anchor ourselves in where we just were. The leap from painstakingly line-editing throwaway code to confidently handing off massive multi-repo changes to your AI, it is absolutely staggering. Think back to early 2025. You might have been messing around with OpenAI's O1 model, but let's be real. Agents would constantly get stuck or just totally derailed by complex tasks. We use them for, quick tactical tweaks in unfamiliar code bases, or maybe just to write some use-once and throwaway research scripts. But fast forward to 2026, the whole game has changed. Engineers aren't just using agents for single files anymore. We're firing up the Copilot CLI and terminal tabs to coordinate entire pull requests across multiple repos, all at the same time. It's a total shift from managing a dozen open VS Code windows to running tens of agent sessions a day.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Age of Agents, moving faster and skimming code.
Okay, so this is a massive paradigm shift. The core activity of a developer has literally moved away from typing code. Now it's all about rapidly skimming, evaluating, and honestly, often just rejecting agent attempts in about 30 seconds flat. Back in the day, early agents messed up so often you basically had to babysit them. You'd pause their generation just to steer them back on track. But today, these agents move so incredibly fast and they usually recover from their own mistakes. So the new rhythm for a staff engineer is basically ask an agent to solve a problem, let it rip, and then just skim the output. If your gut reaction is, no, that's not what I was thinking, you just ruthlessly reject the whole thing. For the really tough tasks, you might toss out 5 or 6 attempts before you accept one. But since that quick evaluation only takes half a minute, you are still moving at warp speed, usually just pushing the PR after a single quick editing pass to clean up some over-commenting.
Moving right along to Section 3, AI as bug detectives, throwing every bug at the LLM.
This crazy speed we just talked about, it completely changes how we handle bug investigations. And here's the absolute kicker. By simply pasting a bug report into a new session, an agent can autonomously track down and correctly diagnose 80% of issues. I mean, wow, that is a staggering metric. Just a year ago in 2025, you might toss an occasional bug at an LLM, crossing your fingers for a quick explanation. Now, you throw every single bug at it. Because today's agents are so unbelievably good at navigating multiple repositories, they can trace a cascading failure through complex systems and hand you the exact root cause 8 times out of 10, totally on their own.
But okay, what about the really hairy, complex issues? Like, take a recent, notoriously tricky bug that required exactly 14 distinct agent sessions before the AI finally cracked it. What happens then?
Well, this is where human expertise is still enormously important. While the agent was churning through those 14 sessions, the human expert wasn't just sitting back drinking coffee. They were behind the scenes running a very specific 4-step process to narrow down the search space until the problem was actually easy enough for the agent to figure out. So while the agent finally caught the bug on round 14, the engineer was busy digging up extra context from logs and Slack, building a mental model of the system, and setting up their own parallel bug reproduction. They were essentially shepherding the AI, telling it, nope, that theory is wrong because of X, or just killing and restarting sessions with new hints. By the time that 14th session rolled around, the human had boxed the problem in so tightly that the agent had a much, much simpler puzzle to solve.
Which leads us nicely into Section 4. What AI still cannot do? The limits of the agent.
Look, despite all this raw computational power, human judgment is honestly more vital than ever. You really need some hard and fast rules to live by. Basically, keep your agents away from complex human communication, untested UI, subtleties, and definitely keep them away from code you haven't meticulously reviewed yourself. I know, it's super tempting to just automate the whole shebang, but a senior engineer in 2026 knows exactly where to draw the line.
You absolutely do not use LLMs to write Slack messages or draft architectural decision records. Why? Because you need to signal that a real breathing human being is actually thinking about the critical stuff. And you definitely don't use them to test the look and feel of a UI because, let's face it, agents just don't have the eyes for those subtle visual and interactive details.
Plus, LLMs have this very distinct house style, right? They love to overcommunicate. They water things down, and they force your poor reviewers to decode this massive wall of rambling robot logic. They are notoriously bad at concisely expressing the actual core idea behind a code change. So by writing your PR descriptions by hand, you're giving your reviewers a guarantee. You're telling them, hey, I actually evaluated this diff myself, instead of just treating them as the first human to ever lay eyes on the code. The only real exception here, super trivial one-sentence PRs where a quick agent summary really doesn't do any harm.
Now we're also seeing this massive quality of life upgrade when it comes to setting up local environments. In the past, if your NVM installation decided to break, you'd be stuck digging through Stack Overflow for an hour. Now, you just crack open the Copilot CLI, tell the agent your setup is borked, and it runs the diagnostic bash commands to figure out the issue and fix your node config right there on the spot. It's magic. And you can even push this sort of cheap generation mindset over to your testing. Asking an agent to go test your change and then just casually reading the log of what it did, it's incredibly powerful. Test code is basically treated as cheap to generate now. As long as it isn't flaky, you just let the agent write your integration tests and review them with a pretty generous eye.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5. The new core skill, finding the perfect balance.
So, what does this actually mean for the day-to-day reality of your job? Well, because you can confidently hand off so much to agents, your job isn't disappearing, it's just moving up the stack. It allows you to easily tackle projects that, honestly, would have been delayed for weeks in the past. Your core job is still shipping projects, exercising good judgment, and, navigating tech company politics. But your bandwidth for taking on smaller pieces of work, it's dramatically wider. Say someone internally needs a tiny GitHub action tweaked. Instead of saying, sorry, I'm swamped, I don't have time, you just toss it at an agent. Sure, a human might have written it slightly better, but the agent gets it done today, rather than putting it off for a month.
And this brings us to the overarching thesis. The true art of modern software engineering right now is finding that precise, delicate balance, that sweet spot between delegation and human supervision. A lot of folks are getting this wrong, and usually in two totally different directions. On one side, some are severely underutilizing their agents. They won't let them investigate bugs, they don't trust them to write tests, and they just aren't feeding them enough simple tasks. But then, on the flip side, you have people overutilizing them, blindly trusting them to write sensitive public comms or letting them make sweeping code-based changes without any careful human review.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty profound thought to ponder about your own workflow. Have you found your ideal balance, or are you still working like it's 2025? It's a serious question, because this tech has officially crossed the threshold from a weird, suspicious novelty to a constantly running, indispensable utility. Mastering that exact calibration point, that is the defining engineering skill of 2026. Get it wrong, and you're either a massive bottleneck or a straight-up liability. But get it right, and you are truly a 10x engineer. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll catch you next time.